4 days before this boat sinks, 2 radio technicians step aboard her at a pier in Galveston, Texas. Their job is to check the autopilot and the VHF radios. The autopilot passes. The radios do not. 2 of the boat's 3 antennas are faulty. So is one of her 3 radios. The technicians wire the one good antenna into a working radio, and the full repair is scheduled for a later stop in Alabama. A stop this boat will never make. 4 days later, a 600-foot tanker is going to call this boat on that radio 3 times. Then it is going to sound the marine danger signal twice. And then the men on the tanker's bridge will watch an 81-foot shrimp boat slide out of a wall of fog a few hundred yards off the bow, still not answering. 3 of the 4 men aboard her will not survive the next few minutes. And when the wreck is pulled off the bottom 2 weeks later, what salvage crews find in the wheelhouse will make the silence even harder to explain. This is the sinking of the Pappy's Pride. January 14, 2020, Galveston, Texas. The fog has owned this coastline for a full day. The evening before, the National Weather Service issued an urgent marine warning. Visibility a quarter mile or less. The Galveston pilots, the professionals who climb aboard 600-foot ships and guide them through these channels for a living, simply stopped boarding. When the men who do this every day stop working, that tells you what kind of fog this is. By 1 p.m. on the 14th, conditions improve just enough. The pilots go back to work. The port comes back to life. Tied up at Pier 75 is the Pappy's Pride, an 81.7-foot steel shrimp trawler built in 1996, headed out to work the Gulf Coast. 4 men are aboard. At the wheel is Raymond Herrera, 56 years old, Taco to the shrimping community. He grew up in Bayou La Batre, Alabama, and has been shrimping since he was about 14. 7 years ago, he took the job running this exact boat, and he has run her ever since, 6 to 8 voyages a year. On the aft deck are his 3 deckhands: Antonio Robles, age 44, Constantino Corona, age 59, and Stephen Edison. Remember which men are on that aft deck. 3 weeks before this trip, Captain Herrera was in a hospital bed due to a minor stroke. 3 days under observation, discharged when his symptoms improved. The doctors never figured out what caused it. This will become important later. At 1:25 p.m., the Pappy's Pride casts off. She crosses 2 ship channels and threads through an anchorage at 8.8 knots, which is essentially her full speed, in visibility that is collapsing by the minute. Herrera is alone in the wheelhouse. All 3 deckhands are aft. 15 miles offshore, a very different vessel is getting underway. Her name is the Bow Fortune, a Norwegian chemical tanker, 600.7 feet long, 28 crew, nearly 16,000 tons of cargo. At 3 p.m., a Galveston pilot climbs aboard to bring her in, and this pilot does everything by the book. He sets up 2 portable navigation units. He sends a lookout to the bow. He keeps the fog whistle sounding every 2 minutes. 6 big ships are coming outbound through the channel, and he calls every single one of them by name on the radio, arranging safe passings one by one. Everyone in that channel is talking to each other. Everyone except one boat. We know exactly what happened on that tanker's bridge because the Bow Fortune carried a voyage data recorder. At 3:30 p.m., 7 minutes before the collision, it captures the pilot and the tanker's captain joking about how many alarms beep on a modern bridge. It is an ordinary afternoon. It has 7 minutes left. Because at 3:18, the Pappy's Pride passed buoy 12 and entered the dense fog. She never sounded a fog signal. She never made a radio call. And she never slowed down. Stephen Edison would later tell investigators he could hear other ships' fog signals echoing in the distance. From his own boat, nothing. At 3:34, the pilot notices the shrimp boat on his screen, quote, showing he was coming towards the channel. 3:35 and 18 seconds. The pilot hails the Pappy's Pride on channel 13, then channel 16. No response. 12 seconds later, the electronic track shows the shrimp boat turn 19 degrees to port. Hold on to that turn. It means someone is at the wheel. The Pappy's Pride is not a runaway boat. She is being steered. 3:35:41. The tanker cuts to half ahead. 3:36:18, 5 short blasts, the danger signal. 3:36:26, slow ahead. 3:36:45. The pilot calls the shrimp boat a third time. Nothing. On the aft deck of the Pappy's Pride, that first blast of the tanker's whistle catches the deckhands by surprise. Antonio Robles tells the others he'll go, quote, "see what's going on in the wheelhouse," and heads forward. 3 hours, 37 minutes, and 10 seconds. The second danger signal. There are now 22 seconds left. Stephen Edison looks up and sees, in his words, this ship coming out of the fog. At 3:37:20, 12 seconds before impact, the Pappy's Pride turns again, 15 degrees to port, toward the channel. If it was an attempt to escape, it was in the wrong direction. The rules of the road call for starboard. The NTSB would later write that if she had simply held her previous course, the two vessels, quote, may have scraped port sides or avoided contact. At 3:37:32, the tanker's bulbous bow strikes the shrimp boat's starboard side, 600 feet against 81. The Pappy's Pride rolls over in seconds and passes down the tanker's port side, capsized. The pilot's mayday goes out less than a minute later, verbatim. A shrimp boat abeam of 7 Alpha buoy collided with the Bow Fortune and has capsized. Please send help out to 7 Alpha buoy. At 3:54, the pilot boat Yellow Rose pulls one man from the water, Stephen Edison. He is the only one they will save. Constantino Corona is found in the water 34 minutes later, unresponsive. He is pronounced dead that evening. The Coast Guard searches for 2 more days, then suspends the search. 2 men are still missing. On January 30th, cranes raise the Pappy's Pride from the bottom of the channel. Raymond Herrera is found in the wheelhouse. And he is not alone. Antonio Robles, the deckhand who went forward to see what was going on. He made it. He was standing in that wheelhouse next to his captain when the bow came through the fog. Whatever was happening in that room in the final 2 minutes, Antonio Robles saw it, and he could not tell anyone. So the investigation comes down to one question: not who had right of way, not who was going too fast. Why was this boat silent? It was not for lack of equipment. The Pappy's Pride carried AIS, GPS, and 2 radar units with collision warning capability. Herrera had loaded his own plotting software onto 2 personal computers in that wheelhouse. His radar could see the tanker through the fog just fine. His own electronics were capable of predicting the collision before it happened. The boat was legally required to carry 2 working VHF setups in those waters. Because of the repairs that got postponed, she sailed with 1. But that 1 radio had dual watch capability. It could scan both required channels at once. The radio could listen. Whether anyone was listening to it is another matter. And the boat was being steered. 2 separate course changes in the final 2 minutes prove it. The NTSB laid out the possibilities in its final report. The captain was away from the controls, or distracted, or asleep, or unsure what to do, or unable to respond. And then there is the possibility the report circles carefully: a medical event. Herrera had suffered a stroke 3 weeks earlier. The autopsy that might have settled it was limited to an external examination. Cause of death: drowning. Every deeper question unanswerable. The official probable cause: the captain's outbound course toward the ship channel, which created a close-quarter situation in restricted visibility. Contributing: his lack of communication. The NTSB's lesson from this case fits in one sentence: early communication can be the difference. One 10-second radio call from either the shrimp boat or anyone who could raise her, and 3 men likely go home that night. The sun set over Galveston at 5:42 that evening. The Coast Guard was still out there searching a channel where the fog was finally starting to lift. Raymond Herrera, Antonio Robles, Constantino Corona. The Pappy's Pride never answered anyone. The evidence had to answer for them. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button and consider hitting subscribe and hitting the bell if you'd like to be notified when we post our next investigation.